This is Sports Talk, home to great debates and the hottest sports topics. Now, here are your hosts, Jeremy Farina, Justin Paolillo, and Holden Pirelli.
Hello and welcome to Sports Talk. My name is Holden Pirelli alongside Justin Paolillo. Jeremy's not with us tonight, but we're going to kick things off and dive right in. The Major League Baseball trade deadline recently just ended. Justin, what was the best move at the trade deadline in your opinion?
In my opinion, the greatest move at the trade deadline was probably the Troy Tulowitzki trade because they had a good defensive shortstop and leadoff hitter in Jose Reyes before, but they basically, I would say multiplied times 2 to get Tulowitzki, who's been the best shortstop in the league for the past 5-6 years now, and not to mention they added David Price too. Two guys who are in the primes of their career, 29, 30 years old, got a good solid 5 years left. That's if they stay, because Price has to re-sign with them, but Tulowitzki is still under contract. And but I just think, especially for this season, because I mean the Yankees were running away with this division, and then you see this trade here, and you think actually, not only are they going for a wild card, they have a shot of knocking out the Yankees in the AL East, and I think those, especially the Tulowitzki, I think will put them over the top. I mean, you saw in his opening game, gets a home run, and he scored the game-winning run. He didn't get the walk-off, but he was at second, wound up coming around to score, and his defense is going to be there, and I just think that was overall the best move. And but David Price not too far behind, so definitely, in my opinion, the Blue Jays won the offseason, and I mean, we'll see what happens, but another good pickup, Cole Hamels to the Texas Rangers. Not necessarily this year, because I think it's going to be too tough to beat the Astros, and not only that, the Angels are ahead of them as well. But looking into the future, you have a good young core, and I think so that was a good move as well to get him out of Philadelphia and into Texas. But overall, Blue Jays won the deadline, and Tulowitzki was the best move.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Yoenis Cespedes trade to the Mets was the best move at the deadline. You're talking about one of the best left fielders in the game. And the Mets have had a superb pitching staff all season. You talk about Harvey, Syndergaard, DeGrom, and Matz. These guys are ace pitchers, but the Mets couldn't score a run to win at all, like this season. They couldn't score runs consistently. And you talk about Lucas Duda, who's had 8 home runs in his last 9 plate appearances, but otherwise before that, this guy was just miffing on every at-bat. And then you look at David Wright, who's been hurt all season. This Mets batting lineup has been devoid of power hitters, and now you add in a slugger like Cespedes who can score runs for you, and then you add it to that wonderful pitching staff, to an ace like Matt Harvey and an ace like Syndergaard. Now this team can stop their opponents from scoring runs and put a couple on the board. And
yeah, another thing with the Mets too is you bring in Cespedes as well. He not only helps them with his stats, but that influences guys like Curtis Granderson who have come hot as of late, Lucas Duda, and then they'll get David Wright back, and I'm sure it'll take a while to get into it, but this team's moving in the right direction, and they're going to get very hot as the playoffs come to an end.
And they needed to improve a very weak offense because they're tied for first place in their division with the Nationals, and the Nationals have a stud pitching staff with Scherzer, Strasburg, and Zimmerman, so you need to be able to score runs, and adding a guy like Cespedes was a great move. Justin, what was the worst move at the deadline for you?
The worst move at the deadline. Now, I know I said David Price was great, but it was great for the Blue Jays. But I think the worst was the fact that the Tigers let him go, because the Tigers, I mean, after they traded him, I believe they won 2 or 3 straight, so they're not out of it yet. And either way, even if this season goes to the dumps, and then they get Miguel Cabrera back healthy next season, you could re-sign David Price, add him with Justin Verlander, who's been hurt this season, and start fresh next season. I think if you just dump him off, I mean, they'd still have to re-sign him because he's a free agent anyway, but I think you got to keep him, and they're not out of it this year. So if he starts pitching, winning all of his contests, like similar to your man Jake Peavy last year, and we know Jeremy's out there rooting for him as well. I think that would have been great. So I think it was a bad move for the Tigers to just let him go. And there was rumors before that maybe he's going to go to the Dodgers, and then they said, oh, we're not trading him at all. And then it was I don't want to say last minute, but it kind of came out of nowhere that he went to the Blue Jays. I mean, credit the Blue Jays for getting those 2 stud players, but just a bad move, I think, by the by the Detroit Tigers to just let him go that easily, and I'd say that's the worst.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Yankees did not make a move at the trade deadline. You look at the Yankees right now. With Teixeira and Rodriguez, they have two sluggers in their lineup who are currently in the top 5 this season in home runs. So the offense isn't an issue. The issue is the pitching staff. And you look at this pitching staff, and you have Tanaka. But every time Tanaka goes up, and this guy was supposed to be the new ace of this staff, every time he goes up, I think he's going to throw his arm off. I mean, he's been battling injuries ever since he got to New York. Then you look at Pineda, same story. He's been battling injuries. And CC Sabathia has been a has-been. He's been a shell of himself. He's giving up 5 runs a game. That's not Yankee pitching material. I'm surprised they didn't make a move because I think they're going to win this division, the AL East, and they're going to make the playoffs. But we all know when it comes to the playoffs, what gets you through pitching. And right now, they have nobody on that staff who really makes me go, wow. You know, that they can win a game for the Yankees.
Well, yeah, because if the pitching staff isn't great, then you're relying on your offense to score 12 runs, which the Yankees have been dominating lately. I think on their last road trip they scored like 75 runs or something. But that's not going to happen throughout a whole playoff series.
Exactly. So,
I mean, are you going to bank on the Yankees lineup scoring 12 a night? I don't think so in the playoffs. You're right, Holden. They should have made a move for a starting pitcher. But you know, they've done in the past where they've traded a lot of their young prospects, and then they find themselves in like last 2 seasons where they had a lot of old veterans. I mean, I know it didn't seem like the Yankees were out of it because they had Mariano and Jeter retiring, so it was still a great season, but they were out of it, and they tried to avoid that this year, not giving away their young talent. But I think you're right, at least getting one guy just to, you know, solidify that pitching staff a little more, even if it's just a bullpen guy to just help out. I mean, there was rumors they were going to get Chapman from the Reds to you know, be that closer.
But they didn't get anybody.
They couldn't get him. I know it's tough, but it is tough, and I agree with you, Holden. The Yankees are going to win, but can they even get past the first round without a good pitching staff? Maybe they, you know, win 2 games, but if the offense has one bad night, it's over.
Right. Well, moving on to our next topic, Sheldon Richardson of the New York Jets is suspended for the first 4 games of the season. But just a couple days ago, news broke out that on July 14th, Sheldon Richardson was arrested in Missouri for driving his car 143 miles per hour on the highway with a 12-year-old in the back seat, intoxicated by marijuana, and also he had a loaded semi-automatic handgun in the driver's seat. So, what do you make of this?
Well, I think it's a shame because these guys have all this money and they're playing in. Some people think it's the greatest league in the world to play in, and I understand, you know, with that money you get all this. You know, you could buy stuff and buy nice cars, fast cars. You know, you could buy drugs technically, and I know it's not right to, but you know, it's tough because. If this was a normal, like I was watching the Michael Kay show today, and they made a point that if this guy was the 52nd guy on the bench,
no one would
he'd
care.
be caught already,
Yeah.
or they just wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But this guy's a top star, so it's almost like should you treat him the same way as? And they also brought back 2 guys played in the '80s who were on drugs and they got into some trouble and they still are Hall of Famers now. So there is a. You gotta weigh how bad was the situation. I think if the guy was maybe just speeding, I think a lot of people get the sympathy because there was a 12-year-old in the car as well. I think if he was alone, there's be a little less. And also with the handgun, I mean, you saw what's happened in the past few years with you know,
Plaxico Burress.
Yeah, and even out of sports too with the you know, the Baltimore riots and Michael Brown and stuff. So. That's just another emotional topic for the American society as well. So I think this whole situation is rough, but you get a little annoyed at these guys because the guys and you get annoyed at him because he's got this stuff, but you almost forget too. The guy's still, I mean, we're 17, 18 years old. The guy's only
25, I think.
Yeah, the guy's 7 years older than us.
24, yeah. 24,
I mean,
25.
so he's a little immature, and you think these guys are grown men, but they're still young guys. It's just sad that, you know, it had to happen to a guy, and hopefully it doesn't ruin his career, and hopefully he doesn't get caught again, and he's lucky nobody got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, when I found out he was just suspended for the first 4 games of the season, you know, when you get suspended in the NFL for substance abuse, it's 4 failed drug tests, and the 5th triggers the suspension. So now I'm thinking this guy's got some issue with marijuana. Maybe he's got an addiction because he failed 4 prior drug tests prior to getting suspended. So he failed 4, then he failed another one, he got suspended. So this guy, I think, has an issue with marijuana. And then second of all, you're driving 143 miles per hour. First of all, look, we get it. Guys, they like to drive fast cars, and if you have one, that's the perk of buying a fast car. You gotta go fast, man. What's the point? Do you have to do it with a 12-year-old in the back seat? And do you have to do it with a handgun? Like, why do you even have a handgun in the car with you? And there's a 12-year-old. Yeah. Like, what are you? When the cops pulled him over, I wonder what they were thinking. They smell marijuana. They see a handgun
and a huge guy in the front seat.
A huge guy in the front seat and a kid in the back. I'm surprised that this guy wasn't charged with child endangerment. The authorities say they had nothing really to charge him with because they didn't really have anything evidence that could stick. But just looking at that situation, it's not right. And I think if you're the Jets, you take this guy off the team. I don't think you cut him, but you put him on that non-football injury list, or the commissioner puts him on the commissioner's exempt list. And this guy shouldn't play. I don't think he should necessarily be suspended, though I think he will for something to do with the conduct policy. Guys are getting suspended left and right. So I think Sheldon Richardson's going to probably maybe even miss the whole season for what he did for this incident. And I'm just surprised news just came out now because it happened on the 14th in July.
Yeah, and another thing too is just so unfortunate because this guy, he's not as well known as, let's say, like an Aaron Rodgers or a J.J. Watt type player. But he's a role model to some kids, and it's not a good role model situation to be getting caught doing that.
He's still in my opinion, the second best defensive lineman behind J.J. Watt. He was probably the best player to come out of that draft class he was in. He's been a stud for New York. He's been, for a New York Jets team that has suffered, he's been the one silver lining. And now all of a sudden he gets in trouble for this. What's more, the issue with me is marijuana, because now, he fails 5 tests, then he gets caught speeding in his car, cops smell marijuana in the car. This guy needs some help. And if I'm the Jets, what do you do in this situation? Because it's not like you said, he's the 52nd rated guy on the roster. He's your star player. Are you going to adopt a coach's mindset and say, look, if he can help us win, we'll play him? Or are you going to take the more humanistic approach and bench this guy so he can get some help?
It is going to be a tough decision, but, the Jets are going to have to work it out, and they're going to have to make a football decision. Do we want this guy to, obviously he's going to impact their defense, and whether he's in or out, it's going to be good or bad. But, like you said, Holden, is this the type of player they want on their roster? So they're going to have to weigh it. And plus, there'll be more information as we get closer to the season as well before they make the decision.
Well, transitioning into our next topic, talking about suspensions in the NFL, Tom Brady recently had his appeal rejected, and the 4-game suspension for next season is upheld. Justin, what's your reaction to this?
I'm glad it happened. I'm sure Patriots fans are really annoyed with the decision, and there's people who don't like the Patriots who are pumped with this decision or maybe think he should have got more. But, I just think this is the type of situation. I guess it should be appealed because, Brady's arguably the best quarterback, maybe the best player in the NFL, and he's on a Super Bowl defending Patriots team and you're in that type of division now. If you lose your first 4 games, that could be the season right there because the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins are looking very good this year. So those are, I don't want to say must-win games, but they're big games to win. And I just think this is a situation, too, like just take the 4 games and just move on with it. Maybe you can steal a game or 2 with your backup QB in, and then when Tom Brady comes back, he can start to dominate again. But hopefully, let's hope they don't lose 4 straight. But I think the appeal was fair, There are a lot of people annoyed with what happened against the Colts. I don't think the outcome would have, if they played with normal balls, I think the Patriots still could have won. Maybe they would have won by even more if they had regular balls. But there's still that in the back of your mind, well, maybe, maybe the Colts would have done something, but
still, it was 45 to what? It was a marginal victory.
So just the fact that he did it, I think the appeal was fair. I'm actually shocked that it stayed at 4 games. I thought it was honestly going to get pushed down to 2 or maybe none. Yeah. So I just think just take the 4 games and move on, and hopefully for the Patriots' sake, they can still have a winning season and do well in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was very surprised that the suspension wasn't reduced to 2 games, 3 games, or no games, 1 game, whatever it was. I'm just surprised it wasn't reduced because when the Patriots lost that first round draft pick, a 4th rounder, and a $1 million fine after Deflategate, broke, because the league didn't just punish Tom Brady, they punished the Patriots. And Bob Kraft came out, the owner of the Patriots, and was like, we're not going to fight the punishments that Goodell put on our franchise. We're just going to let it go for the betterment of the league. And after that happened, everyone was like, oh, well, Kraft and Goodell, they cut a backroom deal. Well, we won't appeal our suspension, just make sure Brady's suspension gets reduced. That's what the rumors were. And now that obviously hasn't happened. So I won't be surprised if the Patriots organization now appeals their suspension, losing that first-round pick and obviously the money fine. But I was very surprised that Tom Brady's suspension wasn't reduced after what Kraft did, which was a very classy move. But also, I thought a little backdoor dealing going on right there. But for Goodell, I think this doesn't hurt his image because he's been in the middle of all this domestic violence, all these cases of players getting arrested and charged with domestic violence and assault and robbery and stuff. It's been a whirlwind year for Roger Goodell, and to see him standing to his guns and fighting Tom Brady, I think shows his character. Because in the past, he's reduced a lot of the penalties. Look, Adrian Peterson got back into the league. Greg Hardy, he's only going to miss 4 games next season. Originally slated to miss,
which could be huge for the Cowboys.
Yeah, miss 10. So this was a character move by Goodell. But just all in all, I'm surprised, and that Brady's going to miss 4 games. But he might take this to federal court, and I don't think Goodell's afraid to go fight him.
Yeah. Like I said, Holden, I just think this whole thing should just be done. Take the 4 games. Don't go to federal court. Just take the 4 games and call it a day.
It's been 8 months. Or 7 months.
And it will go on for another 8 months.
More than half a year this thing's been going on.
Because let's say the Patriots lose, let's say 3 or 4 games. Every single week, the Patriots win or lose from there on out, everybody's going to say, oh, well, if that suspension got...
Well, I think, if Tom Brady misses games... He's going to come on a warpath next year. He's going to come back off that suspension and play like a psycho, because he's going to be out there out to prove Roger Goodell that it was a wrong choice to suspend him. And I feel bad for the teams he's going to play against.
Yeah, but I could just picture it now. They lose 4 and they're 0-4 and Brady comes back. Let's say they win.
I think they can go 2-2.
2-2.
They win 11-5. That's right.
But let's say they lose 4. Every week the media is going to say, oh, well, if Brady was playing, they'd be this record. And
so you think they'll get a bye or a pass from the media if they don't have a good season
Not necessarily that, but there'll be people talking about it saying, oh, well, the Bills don't deserve it because the Patriots should have been this record because Brady plays in those first 2 games, it's a win. Or it'll always be talked about. And think about it in the future. Anytime there's another scandal, it's going to be compared to the Deflategate. And, we'll see what happens, but I just want it to be done and over with.
Well, transitioning to our next topic in the NFL, Jameis Winston, first-round pick, first overall selection for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Marcus Mariota, who's the second overall pick for the Tennessee Titans, both quarterbacks, both named starters heading into training camp. Justin, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think it's fair. Go with the young talent. Both teams have had... That's been their trouble at the quarterback position, and I think they wanted to go from a different route than just throwing in a 30-year-old veteran who can get the job done but is better suited as a backup position. So I just go with the youth. They're not expected to win a Super Bowl this year anyway. So even if they struggle, they're only going to get better for the future. And if they win, they're talented enough to get the wins, and that's great for the team as well. So I think it's a good strategy by the teams to start them right in place. Good situation for both teams, I think, and just keep building them for the future. I think if you benched them, maybe sat them 2-3 years, I think they'd get rusty. And another thing too is, let's say one of them becomes a bust after a year or two. You have time to grab another guy, or let's say you sit him and then he becomes a bust, then you just wasted 3 or 4 years. So I think it's, especially with these young, talented guys, especially a guy like Winston, who people say is obviously the most NFL-ready quarterback out of college this season over Mariota, just start him right off the bat. Hopefully he can become your franchise player for the next 10, 15 years. And we'll get to it later. Maybe he can make more than Russell Wilson one day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there are pros and cons to making a decision like this. I think naming a guy a starter immediately is a confidence builder. You know, Jameis Winston or Mariota or whoever it may be who's a named starter before camp starts, I think going into that camp, you're not worrying about, you know, losing the starting job or being a third string, fourth string guy. You know, you have that vote of confidence right away, and you can come in, play loose, play free, and not have that cloud hanging over your head and just go do your job and get better instead of having to compete and grind and have anxiety every day if you're going to be the guy for that franchise on day one, on opening day. But I also think there's a con because, you know, competition brings out the best in people, and you don't want people to become complacent. You know, and that's what I'm afraid for Jameis Winston, because he's had some character issues off the field. He's shown some immaturity when he was at Florida State with the crab legs, with the yelling obscenities, you know, missing games at Florida State to be punished for his actions. He is immature. He has shown that. And now you're giving this guy the vote of confidence, the keys to the car, saying, hey, you're going to be our guy for day one. And he hasn't even, you know, really had a couple padded practices in yet. You know, so what's a guy like that who's had a record of immaturity going to do now that he's got, you know, the key, you know, he's got this vote of confidence from his coach, Lovie Smith. Yeah. You know, I just hope that this guy keeps competing and keeps grinding instead of, you know, pulling a Jamarcus Russell and just taking the money, eating a bunch of donuts and then just chilling. But with Marcus Mariota, I think he's a project. I think he needs to sit a year because coming out of that system in Oregon, he didn't call plays. He wasn't in a pro-style offense. Everything was fed to him from his coach from the sideline. He didn't make any adjustments at the line of scrimmage. He was just given a play, run it, go. And he didn't have to do a snap count or be in a huddle. So Mariota, I think he's very, very raw. He's got a lot of great physical talents, but he needs to sit a year and learn. And you got a guy in Mettenberger who was just drafted the year before, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", pro-style arm cannon. This guy was supposed to be a second, third round pick, but then he failed a drug test and he dropped to the 6th round. So I think if you put Mettenberger in, let Mariota sit, there's no pressure because Mariota's he's the future of the franchise. I think you should just let this guy kind of develop and digest the playbook before you say, hey, man, you're going to be taking first-team reps and kind of putting the pressure on that. He needs to know that playbook down pat immediately.
Well, and especially because the offense is so different in the NFL than what he was playing in Oregon as well. So it'll be tough. And I think if you were going to sit one of them, it'd be Mariota over Winston because I think Winston is more NFL ready. But I think you need to start both of them right off the bat. But if I were the Titans, I would have traded. I would have traded for that second pick for some pieces to help other parts of the game because you have Mettenberger already. So
right.
That's what I would have done at the draft night. But who knows? Maybe even if they sit him this year,
they're justifying that. Hey, we took the best player available and we thought that was Mariota, even though we had Mettenberger. But also, it was like, why'd you draft a quarterback the year before then with a second round grade? Yeah. You should have traded that second pick, or you should have drafted a different guy or traded that for more picks and built your team because this Tennessee roster is the cupboard's bare with talent. I mean, there's a couple guys who come to mind, but no superstar talent on the Titans team. And I'd rather have 5 or 6 talented guys than have one possibly elite quarterback. Moving on to our next topic, Brandon Boykin of the Philadelphia Eagles was just traded 2 days ago to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 5th-round pick that could become a 4th-rounder if he plays a certain number of snaps. Chip Kelly has made a bunch of moves this offseason. Obviously, he got rid of Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, traded LaShawn McCoy, cut Trent Cole. He has turned the Philadelphia Eagles upside down. Justin, what's your reaction to Chip Kelly sending away another star player?
Well, clearly Chip Kelly is set in his ways, and, you know, obviously he's moving in a certain direction that he wants to go in, And I think nobody's going to stop him from doing that. I mean, he's been criticized the past couple weeks of not being able to relate to players, and that's why he's uncomfortable around them, and maybe that's why he's doing these certain things. But let's see what he can do this year. This is the way you want to go. Then back it up and win your division and go deep in the playoffs, possibly win a Super Bowl. If that works, then nobody can criticize you saying, "Oh, well, why were you cutting these guys?" I think if Boykin's got a point. If the team goes 500, 8-8 this year, or even below 500, even if they go above, I think this team needs to be spectacular this year. I'm talking like 11-5, maybe 12-4. If Chip Kelly's gonna back it up, or at the very least, they need to make a deep playoff run. If this is the way Chip Kelly wants to go, you need to back it up, win some games, win some playoff games, or else this.
I think
this trading players away is a waste of time.
This team can't just make the playoffs and win the division, because with the roster last year's roster was the same as the year before, Chip Kelly's first year in the league. That team won the division and lost in the first round of the playoffs. So they could make it that far. And they went 10-6 this past year, and just the Cowboys had the better year and won the division. They couldn't make the wild card. But this team, with all the moves, they've taken all the superstars off this team, in my opinion. And they also traded away Nick Foles. They got rid of every talented player, in my opinion, on that team, with the exception of maybe one or two. And they brought in all these other guys, DeMarco Murray, Byron Maxwell, talented players. But when you do that, when you make that kind of move and you raise all the attention that you did, all the questions and all the criticism, he needs to back it up. He needs to win a playoff game, and possibly, I think this team needs to make it to at least the conference title game. Because they made so many moves. It's like, what? Why did you do that? We had a championship team before you made these moves. Now we're a question mark. But he made the moves, and now he needs to back them up. Brandon Boykin, who's the best quarterback on that team. He's their best. He played the slot corner position all this past season, but he had like 10 picks over the past 2 years, 8 or 10 picks. It's a lot. He's a talented player, and he's only 25, so it's like I don't think he's even reached his prime yet. And then you get rid of him to Pittsburgh for a fifth-round pick that could possibly become a fourth. That's nothing. That's literally nothing. They might as well have gotten rid of him for free because they got nothing in return for him. I'm just surprised that they made all these moves and they got rid of LaShawn McCoy, an all-pro running back. They got rid of Jeremy Maclin, a Pro Bowl wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson, Pro Bowl wide receiver, and they still kept Riley Cooper, who's an average wide receiver at best. Pro Football Focus rated him as the worst wide receiver in the league. And he was the one that got in trouble 2 seasons ago for
the racial slur.
Yeah, the yelling that racial slur at the country concert, and he's still on the roster. Like that bugs me. I can't. That makes me confused when I see something like that. And I don't know if Chip Kelly's trying to be by like Bill Belichick, like it's the system, it's the coach, not the players. Like I make the team, not the other way around. Because we've seen with Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich in the NBA, it's kind of like, I can make anyone talented because my system is just so good. So I don't know if Chip Kelly's trying to do that here, but he's only his 3rd year, and this is the first year where he has control of player operations. So he's basically the general manager now, as well as the head coach. So he's got a whole lot of power, and I think he's just made a lot of moves that this season's it's make or break. He could be fired after this season, despite being only 3 years in with a 20-12 record.
And I'll tell you this right now, Holden. This team better produce because Philadelphia can't handle another bad team. The Phillies are the worst team in baseball this year, even though they've been playing well as of late. The 76ers are like
awful.
A joke.
The hockey team's okay.
Team.
They didn't make the playoffs this year.
Hockey team's okay, but now if the Eagles start to fall off, even with the talent, Chip Kelly gets fired. Maybe they have a losing season. But they could do great. Look,
the Panthers went 7-8 and they made the playoffs.
But that was because they were in a
And then the Eagles go 10-6 and they don't.
That's the
that's an outrage to me. So this is a playoff team in the Eagles. But then they literally I think took away all the players that made them a playoff team. So he has a lot of explaining to do. But moving on to our next topic, Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, recently got a new contract extension, 4 years, $87.6 million. That makes him the second highest paid quarterback in the league behind Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers makes $22 a year. Russell Wilson will make $21.9. So, Justin, what's your reaction to this big payday for Russell Wilson? Well, is he worth it? Is he worth number 2 quarterback money?
If you are strictly based on winning, yes. But personally, talent-wise, I don't think he should be the second highest. Of course, if you're a guy, if
$60 million guaranteed, so that's up there. That's like
that is
top
up there in
5
guaranteed money. And if you think about it, sure, talent, yeah, the guy he's a great team general, runs the team great. He's got the support of everybody. He wins games. He knows how to get it done. If we're looking at sheer talent, no, he's not the second best quarterback in the league. But that's he got his money because of what he's done in the past and what they hope to do in the future with additions of like Jimmy Graham to only add to that offense. So yeah, he's worth it because he's proven he can win a Super Bowl. I mean, there's a lot of teams who would take a guy like Wilson over, let's say a guy like, let's see who hasn't won a Super Bowl. Andy Dalton. Would you say Dalton's a better?
Well, Dalton's making huge money, and so is Jay Cutler, but neither guy are making more than Russell Wilson right now. If we're talking total value,
yeah,
Jay Cutler and Andy Dalton are making more because their contracts are longer.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's only a 4-year deal. He's like 25, 26, so he'll cash in again, no doubt. But he's right now, he's this on annual salary, he's number 2 right now behind Rodgers.
And he made it because of what he's doing. I think that's another reason they didn't give him a long-term deal because they're afraid, he's not the most talented guy in the NFL. So if this was just a lucky stretch of seasons and maybe next season he struggles, they're not committed to him long-term.
Right.
So I think it was a safe move by the Seahawks, and it was a very safe move because you don't have him for long-term and you gave him the money he deserved for winning it.
Right.
And if he wins more, you could sign him to another long-term deal or give him more money when he is still in his prime at 30, he'll be 29 when he's a free agent again?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it was a good, safe move. And,
he'll be in his prime.
He deserved his money because anybody who wins the Super Bowl deserves big money because there's plenty of guys who've, Peyton Manning, done it one time.
Right. I think if you, like you said, you judge this guy strictly on his resume, he's been to the Pro Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, 1 ring, obviously stellar regular season records. He's a winning quarterback. He's a winner. But I think half of his success is because of the defense that he plays with. Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Earl Thomas. That's an elite defense. That's arguably one of the best defenses of all time in NFL history. And Russell Wilson gets to play with that defense behind him. So I don't think he plays with as much pressure as other quarterbacks in the league, like Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers, I would say 75% of Green Bay's success is because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's the best quarterback in the game. He wins the game for the team on a weekly basis. Whereas with Russell Wilson, I point to a multitude of things that lead to Seahawk wins. The defense, obviously being elite, taking the ball away, preventing teams from scoring, allowing Russell Wilson to come into the game, no pressure, never having to play from behind. So he can come in and just play his game and worry about, doing well. And then if he doesn't, all right, my defense will go in. They'll get a quick three.
He's got a great
quick 3 and out. We'll get the ball back, another opportunity, no problem. But then he hands the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is arguably the best running back in the NFL. And in my opinion, Marshawn Lynch is the heart and soul of that team. Without him, they're not the same because he adds that element of toughness, that rebel attitude, that just, like that just punk attitude, like, you know what I mean? Like that toughness. And Marshawn Lynch has been a stud for the past couple of years, and the Seahawks just gave him another contract extension. He's going to get $12 million next year. He's going to be the highest paid running back in the league next year, behind Adrian Peterson, I think. But still, I mean, he's going to get his money. And I think the Seahawks, by making those moves, Russell Wilson's a winner, and I think they wanted to pay him, but they wanted to give him like $20 million a year, and he wanted $25, which is outrageous. That would make him the highest paying quarterback by a large margin. And so coming to this happy medium at 21 is great. I'm just happy that they were able to re-sign some key players like Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Cliff Averill, Sherman, keep all the guys on that defense, because that's truly what sets apart the Seahawks from every other team, and is the reason they've gone to back-to-back Super Bowls. But Wilson, he hasn't been asked to do much. Like, when he plays, the Seahawks are the worst in the league. I shouldn't say worst, but they throw the ball the fewest times per game. They lead the league in least pass attempts. They're last in the league in pass attempts.
And you're paying your quarterback all that money.
Right, all that money. Because when it's the fourth quarter overtime clutch, we saw it in that conference game against Green Bay, they won. I mean, in overtime, Russell Wilson made a key touchdown throw to Curse to seal the game. And then you look in the Super Bowl, this past one against New England, I mean, yes, Russell Wilson threw the pick, but I think that was more Malcolm Butler making a spectacular play than Wilson making a bad throw.
And it wasn't a great play call as well.
Right. And
you shouldn't have to make that
the
play.
2 plays before to lynch down the sideline, that wheel route throw, and then Curse makes that spectacular catch. Those were great plays by Wilson, great passes. So this guy's a playmaker. He performs well in the clutch. He's a winner. I think he's deserving of the money, especially when guys like Cutler, Cam Newton, Tony Romo, and Andy Dalton and Tannehill are getting the money they're getting. I think it's rightfully deserved that Russell Wilson, just on his resume, gets the money he's getting.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll do good stuff with it.
Look, he's only 25, so he can get better. And I think once Marshawn Lynch retires, then they'll really jack up the load on Wilson and ask him to throw the ball a lot more. But the way this team's designed right now, their identity, it's, look, we're going to throw 15 to 20 times a game. We're going to run it 20 to 30 times a game. And then we're going to rely upon our defense to win games. And that's been the formula for their success, and it's worked. Back-to-back Super Bowls, you win one of them. If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
I just think the biggest regret is we're paying all this guy so much money, and he doesn't throw the ball that much. But like you said, Olden, he gets it done when they need him to, and he wins the Super Bowls, and that's what the ultimate goal is. So, give him the money. And not only that, he's a good team general. Like, that's stuff you don't see in the stat book.
Right, and especially in today's NFL, where you have all these guys with off-the-field issues, domestic violence, drugs, whatever it is, guys getting suspended, cut left and right. He's clean as a whistle. He visits a hospital in Seattle every week. I mean, he is what the NFL needs in terms of a face, because he is a good all-around human being. But moving on to our next topic, we are transitioning back into baseball. Justin, A-Rod has been having a spectacular season, one of the league leaders right now in home runs. If there was a Comeback Player of the Year award, does A-Rod deserve it?
Yes, he does, because he put the steroid use behind him, and he's not on steroids now.
Is he?
I don't think he is, because
he's having a great season.
A-Rod has been, the guy knows how to play baseball. He's super talented, and regardless if he's on steroids or not, you still have to put the bat to the ball, and you still got to make contact, and you got to put it in the right spot. And he's hitting 286 at 40 years old. Most guys can't even dream of that. There's guys who are in their prime who are hitting, sub 200. They're hitting in the 100s for batting average.
Right.
So this guy's hitting upper 200s for batting average, and he's just turned 40. The guy's very talented. He's never going to lose his touch. He's not on roids. He put it behind him. And I think that is, he literally went from zero the absolute bottom of...
Missed the season, yeah.
Missed the season. He's on the news every other day to one of the best hitters in baseball right now. So I think that's a big zero to hero. And I think if there was, you got to go for it. The only thing that would hold him back is his past, if people are hesitant to give it to him because of his past. But if you're looking at just the season and you don't look at anything else, he is the greatest comeback player.
Look, A-Rod to me is suspicious because, yes, he's hit over 20 home runs this season. He has been one of their best offensive players for the Yankees, playing that DH spot. But I look at his 2 regular seasons before he missed last year. Those numbers pale in comparison to what he's doing right now. Right now, he's having an all-star, all-pro caliber season. He's having a season that would make the 2 prior seasons they look awful. And he's 40 years old. Coming off the biogenesis, coming off the Balco steroid scandals. there are rumors right now, and he hasn't been drug tested yet, but there are rumors that he's juicing. And you look at his numbers, and you just can't. 40 years old, and you've hit over 20
the numbers
home runs.
do back it up.
Your 2 seasons before are awful, and now all of a sudden you're doing this at 40.
But think about it as well too. Like the 2 seasons before, he was playing continuous seasons. Last year, he had the whole year off to rehabilitate.
Right. So
and now he comes back
fresh.
100. If he
missed the game,
even if he's not on steroids, he's still 100% healthy.
He missed the
and
game.
The guy is so
he realized how wonderful it was.
How wonderful, and he took time off to recuperate his body. Maybe 2 years ago he had sore muscles every other game, or he had lingering hip injuries as well. This year he's 100% healthy, and I think if this keeps up, maybe if he somehow hit 50 over the rest of the season, I get a little suspicious. But right now,
a friend the other day was like, "Well, he's not playing third base anymore."
And that could be another thing as well.
Well, third base. Well, what does he do at third base? He slings a ball to second or first, once in a while. I mean, I think he's juicing, and frankly, I have reason to be suspicious for what he's done.
Knowing Jeremy, I think he would agree with you. I think Jeremy would think that A-Rod is on juice. Well, I wish there was a way to test it without doing a drug test. Like, I wish we could see, like...
well, the only way is to catch him in the act, really.
Yeah, or, I mean... And maybe, like we said, throw him at third base. If for some reason we can throw him at third and his numbers drop, maybe it is just because he's not playing third. Because it's pretty nice if you can, a guy with such good talent like A-Rod, if you can come in to all your home games and all American League games and just strictly hit 3 or 4 times a game and just sit on the bench, relax, yeah, you're going to play well.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have to worry about,
He's had a spectacular season, no doubt. I thought he deserved to make the All-Star game. I think it was just his reputation that held him back.
And that's what, if there was a comeback player of the year, I think that would hurt him too, his reputation. Yeah. And I think for comeback, you have to look at last season to this season, not, look how good he was before, and then he had this.
He didn't play last year, so.
Yeah. So...
And the Yankees are obviously 7 games leading in their division.
And he's a big reason for that.
He's a big reason. Their offense has been spectacular. But transitioning to our next topic, Justin, you weren't here our last show. NBA free agency had just ended, or actually just began, I should say, but really ended because all the major deals happened within the first week. What was your reaction to that? What you thought was interesting, best deal, worst deal?
Okay.
You weren't here, so...
Wasn't here, and I was...
Just his NBA corner right now.
I was actually keeping a close eye on it, obviously. I love the LaMarcus Aldridge deal. I predicted that earlier late season when he was unhappy at Portland. Glad he went to the Spurs. I wouldn't say... To be honest, Holden, I don't think they have the best starting lineup in the league. They're up there, top 5, and I think they're definitely contenders to win a championship, no doubt, because they have great talent. But the best starting lineup in the league is the Miami Heat. If we're talking about 100% healthy. But some other good offseason moves I liked.
Greg Monroe.
I like the re-signing. I love Greg Monroe, Holden. Like, listen, I wanted DeAndre Jordan on the Bucks.
because he's going to Milwaukee.
But I'm happy Greg Monroe, and that just proves, New York and LA can't just pull all these free agents because they're good cities. Milwaukee can get players because they have a great head coach, great young talent. I mean, their lineup is long. I mean, they have Carl Williams, who's an oversized point guard.
Well, yeah, 6'5".
They have Chris Middleton at the 2.
6'5" with Williams. Then they go. No, I think Williams is like 6'6".
6'6".
6'6". Then they go to Middleton, who's 6'7". Then they go to the Greek freak, who's 6'11". Then they go to who's their power forward? Parker. Who's 6'8", unless they play Henson, who's like 7 feet.
I think
then
they're going to start
right
Parker
to Monroe,
and off the bench.
6'10".
But then you look at their bench too. Henson's coming off the bench, and Tyler Ennis is another.
Well, I wasn't shocked that Monroe spurned LA and went to another team because, first of all, it's the new. All these guys are loaded. I mean, they're making. I mean, Monroe got $50 million. All these guys are millionaires, and so they can afford to have multiple homes, or in multiple areas across the country.
You can play Milwaukee but live in New York.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at J.J. Redick. He plays for the Clippers, but he lives in Texas. Look at LeBron. He played when he was in Miami. He still lived in Cleveland.
Oh, LeBron. I mean,
still lived in Akron. So, I mean, these guys have enough money to live wherever they want to live at any time of the year. LaMarcus Aldridge has a home in L.A., but he was playing in Portland.
And now he's playing in San Antonio.
So, I mean, money is not an issue. So I think the whole pitch that rumored that the Lakers and the Knicks are giving that it's New York. Why don't you want to play in Madison Square Garden? It's New York. Look at all the opportunities. Look at all the opportunities. And the teams go, well, your team stinks. You have no one on your lineup. Why would I want to go through this? And then LA goes, oh, the weather. Their big pitch was the weather. Rumors had it. Their big pitch was, it's LA, beautiful weather, celebrities, all the connections you can make. And LaMarcus Aldridge goes, well, I have a home here.
And I want a championship because he's up in Portland. The team's not going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to be in the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah. And the Lakers aren't going anywhere either.
The Lakers aren't going anywhere either.
They're rebuilding.
He needs a championship.
He needs a championship. So, yeah, he went to San Antonio. My one fear, though, is San Antonio now has a very old roster.
Yes.
And their bench is very thin. Because Corey Joseph, gone. Bellinelli, gone.
The good news is they did get David West, though.
Got David West, but still, he's old, too.
He's getting older. He took the veteran minimum. He could have made
$12 million this year.
He passed up 12 to take one at the Spurs. But another thing in the offseason, you see these guys getting big contracts. Tristan Thompson's making a lot of money for a guy coming off the bench. I don't believe he did, but he's going to sign, and he's going to get good money. Guy coming off the bench last year, he's not starting next year.
Look, I thought that there were a lot of deals this year that were overrated.
But the cap's going up. Next year, there's going to be crazy amounts of money.
LeBron could be the first guy to make $40 million in one season. And I think that's what he wants. That's what he's gearing towards. He's taking all these option deals. But what I don't like is this whole max deal thing. Because John Wall, when he signed 5-year, $80 million, everyone jumped on him because they were like, he's not worth that money. And obviously,
Tristan Thompson's making almost that much.
Obviously, he had a stellar season last year. What do you have, like 10 assists a game?
Led the league in assists.
Yeah, led the league in assists. Reggie Jackson, who got traded from the Thunder to the Pistons halfway through the season.
Who played well, but
he's a great player. He can score like no other player. He's one of the best scorers in the league, but he doesn't play defense. And he distributes the ball, 6-7 assists a game. And now he's making $80 million. So John Wall is sitting there going, I make as much as Reggie Jackson. Is that really fair to you when you see something like that?
Draymond Green, who just won a title and beat Tristan Thompson, was going to make less money than Tristan Thompson did, who's coming off the bench. And there's just so much of this.
And Draymond Green's making more than Clay. I just don't like the fact that you look at a guy like Enes Kanter, who was a ghost in Utah. You never even he was a first round pick, but he was terrible in Utah. Averaged like 13-6, 13-7. I mean, just a no-show.
Not a third overall pick.
Yeah. Then he gets traded halfway through this past season to Oklahoma City, averages 18-11. Now he's a $70 million man.
But see, the thing with that was
Chris Middleton.
Portland got desperate when they lost Aldridge, and they figured we'll give Kanter the money to play with Lillard, and maybe he'll do something special.
And the Thunder didn't want to.
They don't want to because
they didn't want to make James Harden part 2,
and they don't want to lose Kevin Durant next season, or even if they do, they want backup.
Right.
So that's why they had no choice but to match it. So technically, Enes Kanter got that money out of desperation, which he's not complaining. I'll take the money, right?
But Chris Middleton, 5 years, $70 million.
He's worth it.
I didn't hear this guy until this past season.
Chris Middleton hits clutch shots, and he plays defense. I mean, I remember watching
that. But are you worried that he only had one good year last year?
But
he was in a contract year and he performed. So
he played decent the year before.
He's got his money. Is he going to just?
He's been improving, and I think he's along the lines of Jimmy Butler. I think he's due for a breakout season. And I remember watching the game live when Jabari Parker tore his ACL. Chris Middleton picked it up in that fourth quarter and hit the game-winning shot. I think it was over Markieff Morris, banked it in, and he's hit, and he's been there. He's going to be their go-to guy when they need a shot to go in. They're not giving it to Parker; they're giving it to Chris Middleton.
I just don't like the fact that some of these guys are
making so much money.
Are making as much money as other guys who obviously deserved it. Goran Dragic, 5 years, $90 million, overpaid in my opinion. This guy only had one good season, not even one good season. What was it? 2 years ago, a year ago?
Yeah.
He had one good half season. Like after the All-Star break, he averaged like a year ago 23-8. But other than that short span after the All-Star break a year ago, this guy hasn't done anything. And all of a sudden he's the $90 million man in Miami.
Yeah, but it's just the thing was the cap salary is going up. And the some teams are getting bad, so they're offering these guys big deals to stay with them. And
so should Kevin Love have taken that max deal? Or done an option like LeBron and cashed in? A lot of these guys are waiting. DeAndre Jordan only took a 4-year deal with an opt-out up to 3, so he can cash in when the cap
you know why? Because they want that cap money. Because DeAndre Jordan is going to be worth a lot of money. The guy's only 20. He's going to be 29. It is the part of his prime when he's a free agent. Yeah. And the big man game, there's not a lot of good big men nowadays. Yeah. And if he can pick up his free throws, this guy's arguably better than Dwight Howard as far as big men go. And it's just tough because when
Brook Lopez opted out. He was making, 15, 17 a year? Now he's making 20 on a 3-year deal.
And the guy doesn't grab rebounds. He's 7 feet. He averages 6 rebounds a game.
No, sure, but he scores 20 in his sleep.
But he blocks 2 shots.
Yeah.
So I think he's fine at that position. But there's guys who just aren't worth the money they're getting, and I'm just afraid to see. And the other thing, too, is, Holden, we're not used to this because we're used to guys not making that much money. So it's going to be strange in 3 years when the salary cap is way up, and we're like, this guy, what is he making this money for? But that's going to be the average because LeBron could be making $40 million, so Tristan Thompson making $20 million isn't going to be that much.
Yeah.
So and Curry, Curry's going to be due for a big payday because he's not even the highest paid player on his team. He should be one of the highest paid players in the league. And wait till he's a free agent.
I think what is he? He's like Russell Wilson. He's like Russell Wilson, obviously one of the least paid players coming into the season, only making $1 million, and he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But Steph Curry only making $11 million, and you have guys like Draymond and Clay and Bogut. All those guys are making way more money than him.
Now it's no shot to them because they deserve it, but Curry needs to make more. Wait till he's a free agent. That guy, he's going to cash in.
We saw Lillard and Anthony Davis get those big extensions.
Davis is worth it.
Yeah,
Davis. Sorry, Davis and Lillard are way worth that.
They're counting on they made those deals because I saw them $145 million and $125. I was like, I've never seen a deal like that before. But obviously, they know the cap's going up, so they can plan ahead.
You can't afford to lose. The Trailblazers could not afford to lose Lillard anytime soon, or else they'd be in complete rebuilding mode. And obviously, the Pelicans. That Anthony Davis is 5 years will be the best player in the NBA.
No doubt. Yeah, no, he's on that path. You
can't lose him. He's due for. Wait till he's a free agent after this deal passes up.
Well, he signed a 5-year extension, so
and the guy's
on top of the
he's
year,
22 years.
He has a year or 2 left, so he's going to be there forever.
He'll be 28, 29.
He'll be.
He's going to get. He might make over. He'll probably make $45-50 million a year when he's a free agent.
That's crazy.
Think about that.
50 times 5.
He's going to make a lot of money, and teams can. That guy, he's worth it because he'll be the best player. Kevin Durant, when he's a free agent, teams are going to have to offer him big money.
Right. And he could sort of cash in on one of these deals like Davis and Lillard got, knowing the cap will go up.
Yeah, I would. If I'm Durant, I'm taking a 2-year deal with an option for the 3rd next season. And then when the cap goes way up, I'm opting out.
I don't know if I'm Durant. I take a 1-year deal.
A 1-year deal?
Knowing
with an option?
1-year deal with an option, yeah. Knowing full and well, having confidence in my ability that I can score
Durant's
26 a night.
Because the Thunder obviously want him. Does he go home? We've talked about it on the show. Does he go home to Washington? Or does he look for a team like possibly the Knicks with Derek Fisher, one of his good friends, as the head coach there? Maybe the Lakers, who are always in it, but I don't think the Lakers. If they're offering the weather to Kevin Durant, I don't think he's going to be interested in that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Kevin Durant should either stay in OKC.
I'm talking, what about the Clippers? Could they afford him? I don't know.
No, because they got DeAndre locked down. They have Blake Griffin on a huge extension, and they have Chris Paul, so they can't afford him unless they get rid of one of those guys.
Unless he takes a 1-year deal that's low money to win a championship, then he cashes in?
No, he needs...
Westbrook will make a lot of... Think of it, these guys are going to make a lot of money.
Westbrook too, yeah.
He'll make
There's
a
lot of guys coming up to get paid, and look, no other deal may be better than James Harden deal that he just got from Adidas with his sponsorship deal, a shoe deal, 13 years, $200 million. Why is James Harden getting that kind of deal?
He'll be 40, making good money.
Yeah, if you look at it, he's 25 now, right? So he'll be 38, and he'll be making over $10 million a year.
And people forget about that. They're like, and then that's another thing. Endorsements, they're only going to get higher too. So if I'm players who need a championship, if I'm KD, maybe I'm thinking about taking a little less money because I can make that money with what is he signed under?
Right now?
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
Endorsement?
Endorsement deals? He's with Nike right now.
He's with Nike. Make all that money with Nike. You're still going to make decent money in the NBA, so go win a championship. I think you're going to see that happen a lot too.
Look, I think because obviously Adidas is making a big push for him because they have Rose, they have Lillard, but neither of those guys have really won a lot or done a lot in the postseason. and really establish themselves as marquee players, especially Rose again. So they need a guy who's having a lot of success, and that guy's Harden. But I mean, and I think he should lead Nike. Try to be the, if I'm Harden, I want to be a face. You want to, grow your brand and market your brand. So, if I were him, I would leave, because Nike right now, their faces are LeBron, KD, and Kobe, and Kyrie has a shoe line, but I don't know how many people buy Kyrie's shoe.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you thinking about it for rec league?
Yeah.
But
for rec basketball.
For rec basketball, show up in Kyrie's.
Yeah. Jeremy had LeBron's this season.
But, I asked you the other day, did you watch the NBA Africa game?
I did not, because I was really tired. I remember I was in bed, just like
It was
snoozing.
Saturday. I woke up at like 9 in the morning and
I got an update, and I got an update saying like first ever Africa game plays. I'm like,
it was competitive.
I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed.
Chris Paul was playing like Miranda, what was it, Gladman?
Miranda Gladwin. Did he have to go to the burn unit like Miranda Gladwin?
He pulled up. He took 3 straight 3-point attempts within the span of like 2 minutes, and he made all 3.
Is Miranda Gladwin watching the show right now?
I don't know. Maybe she is. But no, he pulled up 3 times for 3, and he made all 3 in like 2 minutes. He treated that game like a playoff game.
Coming in,
the only thing I remember reading on Twitter, someone tweeted if he only played like that during a playoff game, and that was kind of low. But the NBA Africa, that was a good game. They had some all-star players. The Gasol brothers were playing. Greek Freak had 22 points.
Keem hits the great.
Luol Deng, Nicole Vucevic. Jeff Green, Kenneth Faried. They had a lot of really good players in that game. Bradley Beal. Who else was playing in that game? Aminu. Boris Diaw.
I know Deng was
Greg
playing.
Popovich was one of the coaches.
Greg Popovich.
So you talk about having, putting on a good show. That was a good show.
And it's good for the community as well.
Yeah, they did a lot of work before, and that was just really the cherry on the top of the Sunday, playing that game.
On the symbolic Sunday.
But yeah, no, it was a great game to watch. 9 in the morning though. But yeah.
It was tough on a Saturday. I was like,
on a Saturday,
I wanna watch it.
Yeah. Well, what else in the NBA is going on, Justin? You're our insider.
The insider. Well, there's a thing I've been thinking about lately. So 8 teams make it, obviously, and you think about from last year's playoffs. I'm saying the Blazers aren't going to make it again, and the Mavericks.
The Blazers, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're rebuilding, aren't they?
They're rebuilding in complete mode, but
because their entire starting 5 is gone with Lillard,
with the exception of Lillard. And so those two teams are out. Who gets the other 2 spots that didn't make it last year? Think about it.
The West is gonna. That's 6 through 8 in the West is gonna be entirely different.
So let's think of the 2 teams are out. So
we'll think OKC is gonna be back in it.
OKC will be back in it. So there's one. We'll think one spot. There's Timberwolves won't be bad this year. I think maybe the Jazz were the best team after the All-Star break last year. They'll be strong this year. The Kings with Rondo, they have a good lineup with Cousins,
Rondo,
McLemore,
and Cousins, and Gay. They did Rondo Cousins Gay. That's a good. That's a starting. Those
they
are
3 stars Stein in the draft.
Exactly.
And the Lakers.
George Karl's
the Lakers
coach.
won't be there.
Yeah.
And I just think that's going to be a race. That final spot. The Suns will be there with the addition of Tyson Chandler. You can make the argument that even the what's it called? What is that team? I'm trying to think.
In the West?
Forget about it. Yeah. The West, the Pelicans are another team. So the Pelicans get in. I think it's.
Well, they were in the playoffs last year.
The Pelicans, true, but the Pelicans I think are going to move up. I think the Pelicans will be a top 3 seed next year.
All right. Well, we're still a long ways away. The season starts in October.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have one more show, our send-off show for Jeremy Farina, who's going to Arizona.
If not, we'll attempt to Skype him in occasionally.
He's going to Arizona State
but he'll
next
be back
year.
for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, so you'll definitely see him again.
Hopefully. Well, that's all we have for this edition of Sports Talk. My name's Holden Pirelli.
I'm Justin Palolo.
See you next time. Oh, look, we got...